What I have in my hand here is a 1DS Mark II, not the 1D Mark II or 3. No, this was a 1DS Mark II, and I am comparing it now to the Canon EOS R3. Now, as you can both see that these are both pro bodies. Well, first, let me give you the backstory. This was a pro body that I purchased years ago. I purchased this pro body years ago. I wanted to, actually, believe it or not, this was my very first pro body. So I never got the 1D, Mark II, Mark III. I never got any of those. I never got like the 5D, which is like a semi-pro. But as far as like flagship cameras, this 1DS Mark II was my very first flagship Canon camera. And I have to tell you, it was a good camera. I mean, I for the times, it was good. And believe it or not, I actually purchased this camera years later. So I believe that I purchased this camera around 2013, 14, but this camera came out, I have documentation for you right here. This camera came out or was released in 2004. So I bought this camera, I want to say 10 years after it was released. That's what I did. It was around $200-300. Now this camera is about $400 on eBay if you can get it. But this camera was an okay camera. But what we're doing is we're talking about this camera and this camera combined and how technology has changed so much. So to give you a rundown on this camera, I had to go do some research, printed it out. Wait, upside down. I printed it out, and I didn't know that Canon had a camera museum. Well, duh. Of course they have a history of the cameras, but I had never known it to be available in online. So Google Canon Camera Museum and you might find some interesting things. However, let me talk about the most basic things in comparison to what we're dealing with today, right? The bodies are oddly the same size. The older camera, which is on my right, your left, I would say, are slightly taller, and the newer one, which is the R3, is not as tall and is also arguably, I would say that it is the exact same thickness as well. So they are the same thickness, but as far as height, one is slightly taller than the other one, but I can tell you when it comes to weight, this older camera is at least 2 to 3 times heavier than the R3. It's at bare minimum is 2 times heavier. This is extremely different. Now this is just the front. As you can see, this camera doesn't have any any key functions on the front of it like the R3 does right around here. They don't have any function buttons, and there is a lens release, so they haven't changed that at all. And of course they have adapted the cables that you can adapt to it. They've changed that with technology. But I think the more interesting thing is on the back side of them. This camera doesn't even have a flip out screen. Look, it doesn't even have a flip out screen. There's no flip out screen here. That is insane. I can't believe I was using this, but I was. And it even gave us an indication at the very bottom down here of what file and folder I was using. But the technology has changed so much. it's very interesting to even know that I was using this or that people were using this, but this was top of the line at one point in time. And let me read you some of the stats of this camera just so you know. Information. This camera had an effective 16.7 megapixels. That's it. 16. Now, could you use this camera present day? I think you could. 16 megapixels is not terrible for 2004. Well, it was marketed in 2004, but it came out in 2007. This camera, 16.7 megapixels, is not terrible. Honestly, I don't know where the charger is for this camera. I need to buy one. This camera is not bad at all. And believe it or not, it takes a CF Express card. Yes, it does. It takes a CF Express card, but it's type A. And it was 120 megabytes per second. So it wasn't reading very fast at all. However, and it took a SD card as well. But this was a great camera for me. I didn't use it very long before I updated to like a 6D, I want to say. But this was a great camera. And there's like an entire packet of a lot of information that I'm not necessarily sure about. It has an EF mount, 16.7 megapixels, RGB. It shoots JPEG and RAW. What else is interesting? Auto white balance, eye leveling, DigicX, immediate. I don't even know what that is. There's a lot of the ISO speed range goes from 100 to only 1600, and it's expanded from 50 all the way to 3200, but now we're at 106,000 when it comes to ISO. Like, and it's just it's really interesting how far it only does 11 shots per second. You know, only does 11 shots per second. So that's not too terrible. I mean, the camera was definitely above its time for what it was, but now we have faster autofocusing systems. The megapixels on this camera isn't bad. I can tell you that the downfall of this camera is that it doesn't shoot video. If this camera shot video, I promise you I would use this camera. But it only does photo. And I currently don't have any EF lenses. I lied, I do. I have a 75 to 300 EF and I have a 105 macro. I'm going to find a charger for this and I'm going to test it out and see what type of photos I can get. I mean, I have a memory card for it. I don't plan on getting rid of this camera for future purposes and to make videos like this, but look at this, guys. The bodies haven't changed that much, but the technology inside of them has changed light years. They are light years apart. But this is it, man. This is a little bit of what I have. This is a little bit of history for you. You can do your own research as far as if you're one of those individuals or photographers or hobbyists that likes to really get into the details of it to figure out what's going on. By all means, go for it. However, I don't think that I am that person because there's a lot of gray area that no one actually knows what it really means, because they say that there's a Digit X processor in here or a Digit 2 processor in here. They said that there's a Digit X processor in here. So there has been, what, 8 iterations of that Digit processor since they came out with this one from this one. So, I mean, you can get into the details of it, but look, I love the fact that we as photographers can still purchase cameras like this and actually look at the differences between the two cameras and see that they haven't changed that much. Like, other than a few key features, as far as like technology advancement. This is a mechanical shutter. Now we have mechanical and electronic shutter in the R3. As far as the tops are concerned, the tops are basically the exact same camera. Yeah, the tops are basically the exact same camera. I mean, they've changed the location of the buttons, but for the most part, they're the exact same. Look, I mean, they're the exact same camera. I mean, even if we look on the back side of this, right? Like, look on the back side of this. They are basically the exact same camera, except for they put a touch screen in it in order to compensate for these two non-touch screens. Having to look at this small screen would be really aggravating when reviewing your photos. I must say it was when I used it at the time. But yeah, they haven't changed a whole lot. They've changed the placement of the buttons right here in order to fit and make sure that the screen is the same. But so yeah, man, this is cool stuff. I saw this camera in the back of my closet, and I just wanted to share it with you guys to show you how far the Flagship series has come from 2004 or 7 to 2024. So, well, yeah, they announced the R8 about 2 years ago. So 2022 to 2024. So yeah, this is the difference, guys. I just wanted to share that with you, show it to you, give you something interesting, something different to look at. If you're interested in seeing the photography difference between these two, let me know. I'll go ahead and order the battery charger for this so we can crank that video out so you guys can see the difference between the photos that these produce. Of course, I can't do a video comparison because this doesn't do video, but let's see what we get. If you're interested in that, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. We are out. Bye.